Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're cracking open a very specific weather report. It's from Azerbaijan. And not just because, it's about sun and showers. It's because it actually hides this really profound, unfolding story about global climate change. Our mission for this deep dive: to untangle how a simple 10-day forecast, we're talking August 14th to 23rd, 2025, kind of unpacks an entire region's climate future. And importantly, what that means for you.
Exactly. And what makes this particular 10-day window so illuminating isn't just the weather predictions themselves. It's how it acts as this stark, sort of miniature picture of Azerbaijan's much larger climate crisis.
Yeah.
You can see a direct link between just a few hot days and, well, decades of escalating vulnerability.
Okay, so let's dig into the details then. This report, it lays out two really tricky threats for that period, and they almost sound, well, contradictory. First, there's this persistent, pretty intense heat wave across key lowland areas, and second, a significant risk of severe, very localized convective storms, big thunderstorms. It sounds completely at odds, doesn't it? How do you actually get both at the same time? Well, what's truly fascinating here is precisely that contradiction. Or maybe how they become what the report calls compound hazard events. See, the impact of one hazard, like that intense heat wave you mentioned, it actually amplifies the severity of another one, like flash flooding from those storms. It's not just, two separate things happening. One is actively making the other one worse.
And that heat wave sounds brutal on its own. The report mentions daily highs consistently 2 to 5 degrees Celsius above their historical August average, which is around 30 degrees C. So in Baku, for instance, that means hitting 32 degrees to 35 degrees C. That's, 90 degrees to 95 degrees Fahrenheit? And the feels like temperatures pushing even higher, well into the mid-30s Celsius, almost 97 Fahrenheit. That's a serious, sustained threat to people, to farms, and obviously to their power grid.
Okay, but that's the part that really throws me still. How are they getting these explosive storms in the general forecast, as I understand it, suggests pretty low rainfall probabilities for those same lowland areas? It just feels like a complete paradox.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the answer seems to lie with the Caspian Sea itself. It's anomalously warm. Surface temperatures are expected in the 26 degrees C to 28 degrees C range, which is quite high. And this warm sea, it acts as this powerful local engine. It's basically pumping huge amounts of low-level moisture into the atmosphere. This creates what meteorologists call KP convective available potential energy. You can think of it like bottling up explosive power, like a really pressurized gas tank. And then it gets released in these monster storms, torrential rain, maybe large hail, damaging winds. And the nearby mountains, the Greater and Lesser Caucasus, they help kick things off by forcing that moist air upwards.
Wow, okay, so the Caspian Sea is basically acting as this massive storm engine. But hang on, isn't that same sea facing its own critical issues? I feel like I've read about that. Are these two problems linked?
Absolutely. And here's where it gets truly unsettling. This same warm Caspian Sea is also rapidly shrinking. Why? Mainly due to accelerated surface evaporation, driven by the heat. So you get this dangerous feedback loop. The very symptoms of the long-term climate crisis, like a warmer, shrinking sea, are actually intensifying, ramping up these short-term weather disasters like severe storms.
Right, the long-term problem feeding the short-term disaster. And you mentioned vulnerability earlier.
Yes, exactly. This whole situation really underscores Azerbaijan's position as what the experts call a climate vulnerability hotspot. It's ranked 24th out of 191 countries globally. That's quite high up the list. And the country is, well, unequivocally becoming hotter and drier overall. They're already precisely. That's the core paradox of their climate challenge. How does a region simultaneously confront long-term water scarcity and these short-term intense flooding events?
It feels like a no-win scenario almost. So what's the implication for how they manage things?
Well, it points to a really crucial shift needed in planning. They can't just focus on single hazards anymore, just heat or just floods. They need what the report terms a multi-hazard systemic risk framework.
Yeah.
Because it all connects, you have to look at the whole system.
And then there's that other layer, the bigger irony, isn't there?
Right. What some call the vulnerability driver paradox. The nation is highly, highly vulnerable to climate impacts like we've discussed, yet its economy is deeply rooted in exporting fossil fuels, which of course are the primary drivers of the global climate crisis that's hitting them so hard right at their own doorstep.
So wrapping this up, what does this deep dive really mean for you listening? I think it illustrates how a seemingly local, specific weather forecast can actually offer these profound insights into much larger, interconnected global climate challenges. It's just a vivid reminder that really no place is isolated from the bigger picture anymore.
And maybe a final thought for you to consider.
Think about how nations, especially those with resource-dependent economies like Azerbaijan's, have to grapple with this balancing act. Balancing those immediate economic incentives, like fossil fuel exports, against the really urgent long-term demands of environmental and economic security, particularly when the impacts of climate change are already here, right now. It's a truly delicate, critical challenge playing out across the globe.